Hey guys, thanks for checking out another Infinity battle report for me. I'm going to be tentatively calling these the Symbiont series after the army I play, Tohaa, just so I can distinguish battle report content from other content that I might put out in the future. Look out for that kind of stuff. No, I haven't put up a video in a little while. I've been having some really weird games of Infinity that I just didn't feel like doing a video for, and this one is no exception, but it was kind of a comical game, so I figured it would be a fun one to do a video for, and I haven't done one in a while, so why not? As you can see here, I am playing my Tohaa, of course, versus TAC, the new sectorial for Ariadne. Not new anymore, but still haven't been around for a while. I've not played against TAC at all, and I have very little experience against Ariadne. They're one of the armies that I want to play more against because I'm still learning how to deal with camo and all that kind of stuff, and of course Ariadne has a lot of that, so definitely a good matchup for me from a learning perspective. I also have a tournament coming up this week, which I'm really going to try to attend. It is a little bit of an awkward time for me, but we're going to make the effort. And one of the missions the tournament is using is Unmasking. I have not played Unmasking before, but I understand it's a pretty popular mission. I see it used in a lot of tournaments, and people seem to play it a lot and things like that. Not one of my favorite missions. I don't like the extra element of guesswork that the mission adds, with the 3 HVTs, only one of them being the actual designated target. You don't really have any way to know other than just guess. So that's really the problem I have with the mission. But other than that, it's not a bad one. I certainly prefer it to a lot of other missions that are out there. Alright, so we'll go to the army list here. I've been playing a fairly similar list for my last couple games now. I'm starting to hone in on things that I like, things that I don't like, things that I feel like I can use effectively. So you can see here that I have a very offensively focused triad starting at the top with a Spitfire Galrel, a K1 Sukiel, who is also an FO, and a McCall. That's kind of my do-it-all triad. They can take out lightly armored things, they can take out heavily armored things, they can fight at pretty good range bands. I have a specialist in there for pushing buttons and stuff like that. I have D-charges for classifieds, and I also have smoke and melee from the McCall, so can pretty much do it all. That's the purpose of that triad, is to be my go-to offensive piece. Moving down, I have another Galro with a Spitfire. He's joined by a normal Kael'tar and a Camille Paramedic. The Galro with the Spitfire is one of my ARO pieces. He's somewhat hard to dislodge, unless you really put something into him, like Fireteam Core HMG or something like that, where you're not going to stand against that kind of gun in the reactive turn. But with the MSV2 and all that kind of stuff, he can keep things locked down pretty well. And then the Kael'tar that's with him is generally the one that I really rely on to keep Chain of Command active, so that I don't enter Loss of Lieutenant. So he's going to be more in the backfield and playing it safe. And then the Camille Paramedic is just kind of another specialist, and also because of Symbiont Armor ignoring the -3 physique roll or physical roll for game backup with the medkit, it helps to have one in the army, especially when I have a lot of expensive shooting models. And then the third triad is it's similar to an ITS triad, if you're familiar with that, if you're a Tohaa player. So it's just a bare bones Sakiel. I really wanted him for the Nimbus grenades, the Nimbus Plus grenades, and then he's kind of a backup gunner in case I need to fill in for the main triad or something like that. I just want like another gunner in there or whatever. I also have another Kael'tar. That's just to get a specialist in the triad, and then I also have a McCall, for smoke and all that kind of fun stuff, and then we round it out with a baggage Chaxa. And then group 2 is all about the Rasail, which is the kind of the starting off point. So he just runs around with the Spitfire, his Chaxa peripheral, tries to win some firefights, be annoying when being put into suppressive fire and all that kind of stuff. I also have a Kriel Preceptor. Very hard to leave him home when you have 2 MSV2 models in the list. So he's my my smoke grenade bot, and then you can do some fun things with him, and particularly the Serta Beast. So he's my backup order sync for that group. And then we just have 3 baggage Chaxas to act as cheerleaders and kind of watch the back line. Sensors never useless, that kind of thing. So they're pretty good for their points cost. And then we have a diplomatic delegate. Sneaks me another specialist in there, although she's not often going to be booking it up and pushing a console, but you never know what happens. And then she's a pretty cheap flash pulse, a la Warcore for every other faction. So that's what I'm running for this game. This is the list I would run for most missions. There's only a few that I don't feel like this list can play into, and Unmasking is not one of them. Alright, so we'll go over to the TAC army list. This is where the game gets a little interesting. If you're looking at this list and not, listening to what I'm saying really, this list looks terrible, and that's because it is terrible. My opponent, Bill, who's one of the local players, decided to use, I don't know if it's an app or a website, but it will basically randomly make you an army list of the sectorial or vanilla of your choice. And a couple guys were doing that on our weekly Infinity night just for fun. Most of them were making some slight adjustments to the list to make it a little bit more playable or something like that, but Bill, being a true man, just decided to raw dog it and just take a random list and just see how it worked. This obviously puts him at a really big disadvantage because I'm not doing the same thing, and it's unlikely he's going to have, as powerful of synergies and things like that as he would ordinarily in an army list that he made. But it also can get you to try things that you might not ordinarily try. So models that you aren't the biggest fan of and have some assumptions about. And then it can also challenge you to play a little bit more creatively, because when you have one hand tied behind your back, you kind of have to make do. So you can see here that it has 3 tank hunters, 2 AP rifle, adhesive launcher, 1's the lieutenant, and then 1 with a portable autocannon. So the portable autocannon one is actually something that might be taken more often in a normal game, but the AP rifle and the adhesive launchers don't seem that bad for their cost either. We have an Ermendino with a boarding shotgun. That is probably something you wouldn't normally see in a game because they have a much cheaper chain rifle profile, as you can see in the second group, which most people would take because you're basically just grabbing them for the smoke grenades and that kind of stuff. We have a dynamo with a Molotov. Again, probably not the most common profile you're going to see on that model. The specialist ones are generally considered a little bit better, and they're cheaper. And I particularly like the DEP and I think submachine gun profile. I think that's a really good one. But still a useful model. We have a Lion Kazakh with an APHMG. Sadly, he is just in the wind by himself. No fire team to help him out or anything like that. So definitely a dangerous gun, but lacking the bonuses that you would normally bolt on to an HMG or it does on a tag or something like that. Then we do have a fire team. It's a fire team core, but it only has 4 members because there's only 4 models that you could put in it. So it's a veteran Kazakh paramedic, a veteran Kazakh X-Visor T2 rifle, a Frontovic T2 rifle, and a Frontovic Molotov. So at least the fire team does have a pretty good gun to lead with in the Molotov. Not the best possible gun, but still very useful. But being only in a 4-man fire team core is obviously less than ideal because the +3 ballistic skill is very important, especially for winning firefights on the active turn. So that's group 1, and then group 2 is just a Ermendino with chain rifle. So that's one that you would normally see, and then just a war core. I don't think you would see a war core very often in a TAC list because they don't really have a good way to convert his order or anything like that other than using command tokens, and you can just get cheap guys on your own because you're playing an Ariadne variant. So, but I don't play TAC, so I don't know that for sure. But that's what Bill is working with. So we'll jump into the game here. This is the table we were playing on. We had to move a couple things around because it was set up for a different mission, and then we decided to play Unmasking per my request for the tournament. So I win the lieutenant role, and just reviewing the mission really quickly, I decide to take first turn. I think Unmasking very slightly favors the second player just because of the consoles being one player or the others. That is my cell phone. So you can make it like a last turn grab for the consoles, which are worth I think 2 points if you have more than your opponent. But the ability to go first and kind of dictate the terms of engagement and all that kind of stuff seems more powerful to me than going second in this mission, because either your opponent is going to very defensively deploy, and then you can run around, grab 2 consoles or so, maybe find out where the designated target is, all that good stuff, or they're going to try to defend the consoles, slow you down, and then of course, since you're the active player, you are very advantaged in correctly chosen firefights, so you can instead just go after their army and then worry about the mission later. So that was kind of my reason for going first. Here's just a side view of the table. You can see we have all the consoles lined up and things like that. One thing to note is that not a lot of great hiding spots for the HVTs for either myself or Bill. The middle where the HVTs need to go is fairly open. There's some places you can hide them, like let's say like back here, for example, or like up here, something like that. But there's really nothing that can stop someone from just like coming around, seeing it, that kind of stuff. You don't have a way to like hide it in a corner like you would over here if this piece was rotated, so that it's much more hidden than it would be on this table. So that's going to make it a little bit easier to actually remove the HVTs once you've found out if they're the decoy or if they're the real one, the real designated target. So maybe a little less order intensive on that part of the mission than another table would be. Here's just a shot of my army real quick. You can see everything coming together. I've been getting some of my stuff painted by a local guy, so that's going nicely. Well on my way to getting a fully painted army there. Alright, and then we'll jump into my deployment. Bill, of course, had me deploy first, and he just had me stick to the table side that I was had my stuff pulled out on, because wasn't really a big advantage one way or the other as far as the terrain or anything like that. So knowing that the consoles and things like that are a pretty big deal, I have to spread out not too much, but a little bit. So I put most things in the middle. You can see on top of the building, I have the Gaurel sniper triad. The Kamel is going to be the team leader for the first turn, because there's no reason to start the models that you want to use out as the triad leader, because then if they die, they also break the fire team, which is just adding insult to injury. So I have them up there. The Kamel and the Kael'tar are prone, kind of just covering the walkways and the ladder and things like that, just in case there's something that's trying to flank around or something like that. I can have access to my light shotgun, my combi, all that kind of good stuff. I have the Rasail just a little bit on my right-hand side, and then his Chaxa, which I'm proxying with a McCall this game, because I do not have 5 Chaxas. He's just hanging out over here because he's 6'4" movement, so he can catch up if he needs to, but I don't want the TAC army to be able to pin me down with any first turn AROs, where I would have to maybe solve that puzzle before I can move out with the Rasail, unless I lose the Chaxa, etc., etc. I also have the diplomatic delegate and the baggage Chaxa in group 1, just kind of hanging out in the back. The diplomatic delegate is watching a very specific right side alley that can approach to me, so I just have a flash pulse to help out with that, in addition to the Gaurel and anything else that I might have over there as the game develops. Okay, moving over here, you can see that I'm just putting the rest of the Chaxas in the back, in positions to handle, combat jump, things like that. That's not something that TAC has access to, I think. I think they only have parachutist, but it's just something I've been trying to get into the muscle memory of. If you could put them up a little bit, then they're still probably within 1 or 2 orders of sensor range if you really need to discover something. But they're also, if someone tries to land, you have pretty big overlapping heavy flamethrower fields of fire, so that's just something I've been trying to do more regularly as I play, is get them positioned like that. And then in the middle I have the Gaurel Spitfire triad as well as the Sakiel triad, so they're just both hiding behind this building right here, because very unlikely that Bill's going to be able to put anything that's going to have line of sight to them on my first turn. Again, I don't want to be preemptively ARO'd by a bunch of different pieces, so I'm deploying defensively so that I can move out offensively without having to worry about that kind of stuff. And then here's just another shot of that, so you can see all the little, there's a whole bunch of models in there, obviously, with all the Symbiont mates and all that kind of crap, so very busy little corridor there. And then this is just a wide shot of my deployment zone, so you can get a better idea of where everything is relative to the buildings and all that kind of stuff. I did put my HVTs, I have one here, I have one here, and then there's one way in the back over here. So I couldn't place them in a way that they would be hidden because they were going to be too close to my deployment zone, stuff like that, or across the middle line, things that I can't do. So what I decided to do is to use them as blockers, basically. So the one on the right-hand side of the photo there, you can see, is kind of blocking anybody off from rounding that corner and keeping cover to be able to shoot out into a pretty open little area I have over there. They would have to more be like behind this barrier or something like that, which is a little bit farther back. That could be a disadvantage depending on what the model is. And then I'm also kind of using them just to alleviate template pressure or anything like that. So if there is like a missile launcher or something like that, boarding shotgun, then it might be able to hurt Bill's positioning a little bit because he has to avoid hitting the HVTs with the template until they are discovered, because otherwise they're just normal HVTs. So that was kind of the best I could do with them in this table setup, and that's what I decided to go with. And then here's like closer up shot of the HVTs. They're just orc models from 40K because I don't have enough HVTs for this mission. I think very few people do that I've seen. Alright, so moving over to Bill's deployment, you can see the war core in the bottom right there. He is just standing prone in the middle, doesn't care. The rest of the stuff is very hidden. So the fire team is in the back behind that building there, and the orange vested model is one of the Ermendinos. I think that is the chain rifle one, if I remember correctly. And then we have the dynamo. We have the APHMG right here, ready to pop out. And then we have a couple camo tokens. So there's one here, and then I think there is also one in one of the buildings or something like that. I'm not sure if I have. Nope. So I think there was another camo token in like this area or something, and then there's another one on a building that's to the war core's right. I just didn't get a shot of that. As I remember, we had to reposition that camo token a few times because it kept accidentally going into the exclusion zone for the mission, which is obviously you can't do. Alright, and then here's my reserve model, just putting my Corral down. He's pretty close to the sniper and the other Gaurel, as you can see, so just ready to help out with smoke grenades if anybody needs to, or if I don't feel like I need smoke grenade support so much, he can kind of whip around the left flank and come from behind or from the side to Bill's army, because he deployed very heavily on my right-hand side, a little bit in the middle, but very heavily on the right-hand side, so there's a possible flanking opportunity there. And then there's the other camo token. So that is, I believe this was Bill's reserve model, is this camo token right there. And then the other one is in one of the buildings, like I said. Alright, so we jump into Tohaa turn 1. It's very obvious that Bill went for the defensive deployment that I mentioned earlier, where it would be very difficult for me to get any line of fire on his models. I'd probably have to use maybe as much as 3 orders just moving to get around corners and stuff like that, and then there's going to be a lot of guys there, so I'll probably need like some smoke support and stuff, and it's just a little bit too much to do safely, especially because I won't have probably enough orders to move back to a good position. And of course, going first, my main order pool got reduced by 2, so 10 to 8 is definitely not going to give me enough to play with. So I just kind of scrapped that plan and decide to go for the mission as much as I can, and then also set up really good ARO positioning so that I can discourage the TAC army from coming and trying to also get the mission done. So we just move out with the Sukil triad here, moving up to the console, getting the Gaurel in a decent place, all that kind of stuff. As I'm moving up, get into a face-to-face roll with the War Core, using my Spitfire, easily put him down. So that was the only real free model that I was given. Not that big of a deal to take in a regular order off the table, but it does remove a flash pulse from ARO and all that kind of stuff. So you might as well pick up that free model when you can. Skipping ahead a little bit here. So if we go back here, what happens is the Sukil just walks up to the console, whiffs the first one, and then presses the button. After that, looking at the table, I ask if the leftmost HVT is the designated target, and it is not, so still don't know where it is, but I do have one that I can go after for the kill for scenario. So, alright, so moving over here, I I'm looking at the Rasail, and obviously he can't activate a console because he is my data tracker for this mission. Sorry, I forgot to mention that. The Rasail is the data tracker, and I think the regular T2 rifle in the fire team is Bill's data tracker. I don't exactly remember. It was definitely somebody in the fire team. But he can't press the console because he's not a specialist. So instead, I just decided to move him up into a pretty solid defensive position. So you could see that he's seen down like this alleyway here. I have cover because of nanoscreens, so I don't have to worry about the HVT being there or anything like that. But I'm close enough to total cover that if I'm getting into a firefight that I'm not going to win, I can just guts around the corner. That's one of the things I really like about the Rasail, is because they have 2 wounds on their Symbiont armor profile. You can, if you only take like 1 hit, for example, in a firefight that you feel you're not likely to win going forward, you can just not use the Symbiomate, because the Symbiomate, it's not clear whether you get a guts check or not, but most people play it as though you do not, even if you burn it. So you could just take the arm roll on the Rasail. Worst case scenario, he fails it, he's down a wound, but you still have the Symbiomate, and then you can guts check around the corner, whereas, a normal 1 wound symbiote armor, you would have to use the Symbiomate or risk just losing it by failing the armor roll. So that's something I think they can do. They can be in a little weird positions with that kind of play. And then I also put him into suppressive fire because I'm hoping that the Irmandinos are going to run towards him, and I can hopefully kill one or both, or who knows, as they come forward effectively for free. And then I put the baggage checks just over here in case something decides to run up through the middle. I'll just have an extra heavy flamethrower to try to deal with it with. So just some defensive positioning there. With the other Group 2 orders, I'm moving the Corral forward. Still not sure if I'm going to need smoke or anything like that, so keeping him in the vicinity, he's just 1 move and throw away from being able to put the smoke wherever is needed, so it's not like I have to dump more orders into him than necessary. But he is kind of moving forward and threatening that left flanking maneuver that I was talking about, particularly with the Certabeast, who can be a little bit more aggressive. And then with the rest of the Group 1 orders, I just, again, am putting myself into more of a defensive position. I didn't feel like I had enough orders to make a run for another console this turn or anything like that, so I'm just kind of playing a little conservatively here. Having the Sukiel, watch the side where the Corral is, and then having the Galro with the Spitfire watch the main alley where the other Galro with the sniper rifle can also see down. So no smoke tricks are going to be stopping me from shooting anybody there, and anybody who comes around the corner is going to be taking arrows from both. So even if the APHMG or something like that decides to get a little aggressive, he either has to split burst or risk an unopposed roll or something. So I'm just trying to force some hard decisions onto the TAC list. Alright, so that was the end of my turn 1. We go into TAC turn 1. So we do the impetuous orders first. Neither of them are cancelled, and one of the Irmandinos is closer to the Chaxa peripheral, and one is closer to the Rasail. So the one that's closer to the Chaxa runs out first, and I just barely do not have line of fire to it. Probably put the Rasail about half an inch too far to the left, maybe a little bit less. And that's just something I should have checked before finalizing his position, with a laser or something like that. Make sure that I can see around these corners and all that kind of stuff. And that would have been really good, because then I could pick up, those guys for maybe free or something, who knows. But as it happens, the first Irmandino in the back moves out, throws a smoke grenade unopposed, and then the other Irmandino moves out, and I just barely can't see him either, and he throws another smoke grenade, so you can see those with the white tokens right there on the battlefield. And then I believe this is the Irmandinos using their irregular orders to just move up a little bit more. You can see one of the HVTs with the blue shirt in the shot. So just trying to get them into like a little bit more of a forward position there. And then the one in the front is, I believe, is the one with the boarding shotgun. I'm not 100% sure, but we'll figure that out later. Alright, so now needing to spend some regular orders, we go to the Dynamo, who just takes I think a couple orders to just move up. Even though he's fast, he had to like whip around a corner and move up a little bit. He's just driving through the smoke, so even though the Rasail would normally be able to see him, because the smoke grenades are down, he can't, and then none of the Gaurels are in position to see him either. So what happens is he ends up driving forward, and then tries to throw a mine, because he has a mine dispenser, I think, where the camo token is next to that pink crate at the bottom of the photo, whiffs the first roll, and then makes the second one. So that's going to leave him with no mines, because a minesweeper only has disposable 2 as opposed to disposable 3, which most mine layers have or what have you. So while the mine is down, I won't have to worry about another one, and it's not really the scariest target for me. I don't mind if the Rasail procs the mine. It's not a big deal, because unless the Dynamo runs away or something, or the Dynamo and all the Irmandinos, I'm going to be able to see them when the smoke goes away at the end of the turn. So then I can just have a face-to-face, and then I'll trigger the mine, I'll take it on the Symbiomate, and then in the event that I lose the face-to-face through bad dice or something like that, the Symbiomate protects me from that as well, as long as there's no crit, which is not super likely to happen. It definitely can happen, but you can't really plan around that kind of thing. So I don't mind the Rasail having to take this mine here. It would be much worse if it was hitting pretty much any other model. All right, so now the Irmandino is with the boarding shotgun, walks through this alleyway right here, and this is just me not looking at the board super carefully before the game started. I thought these buildings were like touching, or there was more stuff in between them or something like that, which would make it more difficult to get through that alleyway. So it actually gives the Irmandino a nice shot onto the Gaurel as he's moving forward. So he's going to be at +6, -3 for cover, so +3 overall. I'm going to be +-, so I'm on 12s. I don't remember what the Irmandino's on. I think like maybe 14s or something like that. But we do have an equal amount of shots, so at least I have that going for me. And I do have the Symbiomate, so it's not the most... it's not the easiest face-to-face roll for the Irmandino to win, just because we have similar die, or we have the same amount of burst. We're on very similar numbers, so it could easily go away from him. So what actually happens here is we have a couple face-to-face rolls. I think in one of them we crit each other, so we got to bounce there. I think in one I won, but the Irmandino tanked the armor save, and then he failed guts, but then he just came back and shot again. And then I think on the third one he crit me again, so I lost the Symbiomate and went to Symbiont inactive, but just managed to guts around the corner here so that the boarding shotgun cannot try to finish him off. With that Gaurel being a little bit out of the way for the moment, the AP HMG comes forward and I believe has a go at my sniper Gaurel, because now I'm not going to be able to layer those AROs like I wanted to, like I talked about earlier. So he's just going to be shooting me there. But what ends up happening is I crit the APHMG, so he goes unconscious. We should have killed him. I forgot. I think we just forgot about shock ammunition. But I managed to win that face-to-face, which is lucky for me. And then you can see the Gaurel with the Spitfire Symbiont inactive poked around the corner, like over there, like I said. Running out of things that he can try to attack me with. One of the camo tokens that was on the building, like I said, moves over and reveals a tank hunter with a portable autocannon. He has a shot at the Gaurel, and I believe crits the Gaurel. So we had a ton of crits on this turn. So I lose the Symbiomate, go to inactive, and then because of the explosive ammunition, I take another hit and go unconscious. So both my Gaurels getting shot up pretty good, but not much I could do about that except for maybe watching out for that boarding shotgun guy a little bit more. That was not the best possible placement from me. Okay, and that was, I believe that was the end of Bill's turn. He was, just really trying to get some kills with his orders there. So, I start my turn. I'm only down 1 order, not that bad. I don't need to move anybody from group 2 into group 1. So with that, I'm looking at how I'm going to get out of this situation I'm in the middle, where I'm being kind of pinned down by the portable autocannon, and then there's also an Ermendino if I'm to move forward a little bit more. So I think these are actually out of orders just slightly. Yeah, so you can see here that what I actually do first is I try to revive my Galrel sniper. So the Camille stays prone because she doesn't want to take a free portable autocannon shot. Crawls, tries to throw a medkit. The Galrel misses. Crawls again, just gets into base to base, and then I fail the physical roll, so the Galrel ends up dying. So that plans out. The hope was to have him get up and then throw a smoke or something like that so that I can really easily deal with the portable autocannon, but that didn't quite work out. So we'll just go back here, and not having that option on the table, I peg the other Galrel. The reason I did this is because I really don't want to deal with the mimetism on the tank hunter. I just don't want to risk losing firefights to that thing because it's such a big gun. So I move forward, but there's not going to be a way for me to see the tank hunter without also seeing the boarding shotgun Ermendino. So after some indecision, I just decide to go for it. I think I put 3 shots into the boarding shotgun and 2 into the tank hunter. The tank hunter was at 0 range band, so he's going to be at -3 overall, and then the boarding shotgun, I believe, was still at +3 overall, so I wanted more weight of dice to make sure that I can win that firefight. What I should have actually done here is just thrown a smoke onto the Galrel with the Corral, because that would have made it very likely that Bill is forced to dodge with his models, because otherwise they're just taking that additional -6. But I was getting caught up in other things. I didn't think about the smoke grenade play, which is something I sometimes struggle with. So we ended up doing that. But as you can see here, the Galrel wins both face-to-face rolls, if I remember correctly. Definitely knocks the tank hunter unconscious, and then I believe also knocks the Ermendino unconscious. So went my way pretty fortunately. I had weight of dice and pretty comparable numbers for the most part, but definitely a lucky outcome that opened up the middle for me there. All right, so we'll goes past this. All right, shifting gears, I decide to try to clear the right-hand side as well. So the Rasail just moves to the left so that she's in total cover in case things go bad. I trigger the mine, and I have a face-to-face roll with the Dynamo, who decides to I think try to smoke dodge. So we do the smoke dodge thing, and we just bounce off of each other. I eat the mine on the Symbiont, so the Symbiont on her is gone, but the mine is also gone. And then we just do it again. So I use the lieutenant order, as you can see, to just move out like this way and then come back, and then this time I'm able to win the face-to-face roll against the Dynamo and drop it down. So no more bike on the flank there. And then the Rasail moves up a little bit further and sees the chain rifle Ermendino and easily puts him down. Again, tries to smoke dodge, but just too many dice and things like that. So he goes down as well. And then so with the threat of models rushing me kind of abated, I decide to go back and make a more concerted effort on the mission. So we move the Sukiel over. He pushes the button after, I believe, whiffing it one more time again. This time, I guess if it's the middle HVT, it is not. So now I know it's the rightmost HVT, but I have to get to the last console in order for my troops to know that, so they can go ahead and shoot it. So to that end, I task the Sukiel or the Sakiel triad. They start hoofing it to the console on the left-hand side, which is the only one that I have not pressed. I get up there with the Kael'tar, manage to pass the Whip 14 check. So now I know where the designated target is. I also have control of all 3 consoles, which is very helpful for the mission. And then while I'm over there, the Sakiel decides to pop out and have a shot at one of the decoy targets and puts it down, pretty easily. So I pick up some points for that as well. And then it leaves that triad in a very safe position because, like I said, there's nothing in the TAC army that was really on the left-hand flank, so I don't have to worry about them getting snuck up on or anything like that unless Bill decides to use like almost all of his orders for that play, which would, pretty much lose the game right there. So really don't think that's going to happen. All right, so that was the end of my turn. I think the only thing I didn't show was I just threw the Rasail back into Suppressive Fire, but it's pretty much in the same position that it started the turn in, just in case, again, like I said, any of these models try to round the corner and have a go at me. I definitely want to make sure that I have Suppressive Fire up because I don't have the Sniper for ARO support anymore, although I still do have the Diplomatic Delegate. So, being down a ton of orders, the fire team decides to start moving out as the real only offensive piece left. At this point, I still don't know what either of the camo tokens are. They could be a couple things. I think they were also in a position where it could even be an ambush camouflage. So I'm not really worried about them just yet unless they start moving out, because there's not much I could do about them. I can try to censor if I need to, but not worth worrying about at the moment. But in any case, the fire team starts moving out, as you can see here, using, I think, like 2 orders just to move up the board because they were pretty far in the back there. And then what ends up happening is we have a long kind of drawn out thing where we're each looking at, or where Bill's looking at lines of fire and all that kind of stuff. And this is where my HVT placement actually worked out in my favor, because he was not able to, like I said, go to like this position and then have cover and start shooting out, this way, whichever way you want to do. So instead, he has to kind of either follow this little fence here or do something else. So what he does is he walks forward, puts the guys along the wall, as you can see, and then moves the Molotov guy out to just barely have a sliver of line of sight to the Rasail and start having a go at him. I think I skipped a picture here. Okay, so I might not have gotten the best picture of this, but from what I remember, the Rasail doesn't take any damage, and I'm able to shoot with the Diplomatic Delegate's Flash Pulse before the Molotov model is actually in cover while he's vaulting the wall. The Molotov just decides to shoot the Rasail. I think we bounce there, or I make a save or something like that, but the Flash Pulse lands and blinds the Molotov, so shuts him down for the rest of the turn, and then not having very many orders left, I think Bill just decides to adopt some more defensive positioning, which is, you can see, like, this is pretty much the final position that he actually ended in. So just because there's so few orders left, didn't really have an opportunity to really do much damage, and then only having 1 specialist left in the form of the paramedic, very, very difficult for the TAC army to go and push buttons at this point. Alright, so we go to Tohaa turn 3. At this point, the game is not sewn up, but I have very clear goals I need to meet. So priority 1, of course, is to get the Rasail to safely kill the designated target, which is on the left side where the fire team is, so I need to clear them out a little bit. And then, of course, secondary goal is to clear them out. So to that end, I decide to start pumping orders into the Sakiel. I move one of the baggage taxes from Group 2 into Group 1 just so I have a full complement of 10 orders, because this is going to be a little bit order-intensive of a play. And they just start hoofing it across the table. I think they do like 3 full movement orders or something like that. And then I start trying to throw Nimbus grenades into a position pretty much in front of where the fire team is. Managed to whiff the first 2, but then we have another move, and I stick one of the next 2, so I have that Nimbus Plus grenade down. So you can see the position of it there with the little token. And then what I do next is move the McCall out, of course. Check for arrows after explaining to Bill that the Nimbus Plus grenades give a -6 to all modifiers that's going into or out of it, so that includes dodges, unlike regular smoke, and then it also gives -1 burst, which is kind of funny against a fire team, because even though my McCall is not likely to survive, taking away shots is always a good thing. So he decides to break the fire team. The front 2 models decide to shoot the McCall, and the back 2 models, who cannot see the McCall because they're being body blocked by the guy with the white base in the front, just decide to dodge. So that's going to be a dodge at a -9 overall, because they're going to be -6 for the grenades. And they're going to be -3 because they cannot see the source of the template because they can't see through their own guy. So they're dodging on, like, I don't know, 3s or something like that, something terrible. And then I, of course, put both the flamethrowers down. While I'm looking at the heavy flamethrowers, I can't get all 4 models, so I just decide to put both of them onto the 3 stack there and try to get as much as I can. All right, so this is the kind of the embers of that. So what ends up happening is both of the models that shoot hit, but I pass both arm saves, and then both of the models that we're trying to dodge fail and burn to death, while both of the models that shot pass their armor saves, so they're okay, and one of them just guts his back behind the wall, as you can see here. Oops. And then so having the McCall still left around, although I could use like the Traxa peripheral or another McCall or something like that. I have no shortage of flamethrowers at this point. I just decided to have another go at it. I think I end up killing one of the models, and then I think I lose the McCall. But at this point, Bill concedes the game because he has 2 camo tokens left and 1 model, which I'm almost certainly going to kill with the Resale or something, and then he doesn't really have anything that can prevent me from getting to the designated target, so I'm going to pick that up with the Resale very easily. And then in his turn, he's not going to be in Loss of Lieutenant, and I think he said the tank hunters have like veteran or something. I can't remember, but I mean, in any case, he's not gonna be able to get anything done. He just wouldn't, meaningfully be in retreat or anything like that. He has no specialists left, so there's really no chance of him playing to the mission or anything. So we just decide to go ahead and give it a call there. Alright, so with the game being over, we'll go into some post-game thoughts, which is how I usually approach my games. Starting with the obvious, game was pretty skewed from the beginning. Obviously, I have a list I've been working on for some time, which I feel is very, very powerful. And the TAC list is pretty much the polar opposite of that. Just a real lack of synergy all over the board. Just really playing, from a disadvantaged position, which is something that you definitely can learn from. But I think in this case, if you're going to random an army or something like that, which is fine, that's a good way to learn new models and things like that. You do need to make some slight tweaks to the list just to be able to get something out of it. So if it gives you a fire team that is only 4 members, a fire team core, then maybe you move some things around so that you can make it a full 5, something like that. But to Bill's credit, I thought he played the models he had available to him pretty much to the best of his ability. Some dice rolls didn't go his way, things like that, but generally he was leveraging what he had the best way he could. So the shootout in the middle on the bottom of turn 1 was really important. If I lost both Gaurels, it would have been harder to get rid of the tank hunter. I could have tasked the Sukiel with that, but he's not quite as good as the Gaurel would be, just because of less shots and things like that. Certainly not a game-changing moment, but probably the closest that we had to one in this particular match. So, like I said, my hat's off to my opponent for taking a disadvantaged state knowingly, and in my opinion, playing pretty well with the things that he had available to him. The only things I might have changed is pulling back with some of that stuff on the bottom of turn 1, like the Dynamo was kind of just left out there in the open. The one Ermendino certainly was, that kind of thing. So could have been a little bit more defensive with those models. Possible critique of not getting the fire team involved in the game soon enough, but it's not like they're that powerful of a fire team. And I think that the way he deployed them kind of disincentivized getting them involved earlier, if that makes sense. They were very far back and all that kind of stuff. So I think that was more of like a psychological thing than anything like that. On my side, really happy with how the list performed. I do have a variant of the list that I can bust out for certain missions, like if I'm playing highly classified or something like that, where I believe I trade the McCall in the Sakiel Triad for an FO Kamel. No. I downgrade the Medikit Kamel to an FO, and then I bump the Sakiel up to an FO as well. So I can get another specialist out that way. It doesn't change that much about the list. It removes the paramedic, but if I'm playing something that's really specialist focused, like if I was playing like tic-tac-toe or one of those missions or something like that, it's just a little wrinkle that I can do to make it a little bit more successful on myself. I really like all the tools that I have available to me. At no point did I ever feel like I didn't have a model that could deal with what was being thrown at me in this particular game. So, I have the K1 combi for big targets. I have a couple Spitfires just as generally good guns. I have the sniper rifle for long range and shock, all that kind of good stuff. And then there's just the little synergy pieces, like having access to a paramedic is very strong, especially because it can be in a triad, so you can get more shots at landing the med kits, which is good because Camels only have BS 11. I really like the Nimbus Plus grenades. I think they're really underrated. They're very, very strong at breaking fire teams. If you can get the positioning right. So a lot of the times, what I'll do is throw the Nimbus Plus grenade out from around a corner or something, so that whatever I'm going to go at can't see me, and then the McCall or whatever I'm going to use, usually a McCall, just kind of runs around the corner, says what do you want to do, and then puts down 2 flamethrower templates. So you can, even if they're spread out, you can usually tag 3 to 4 guys, if not all 5, if it's a big fire team, or you can double up on people that you deem more important and stuff. And then the -6 from the Nimbus Plus grenades on even on dodges is just very, very strong, because with physical 11 to 13 being the average, it really makes it unlikely that you're going to pass those dodge rolls. So it's very, very scary. And then usually you can get them to break the fire team because they'll dodge with some people, and they obviously have to try to take out the McCall as well. So you can at least get that done, which then makes slicing the pie and all that quite a bit easier, because you've eliminated maybe the +3 bonus, the 6th sense, the extra burst, all that good stuff. So really like all that about the list. As far as my game goes, I think I played a more complete game than I have to this point. Obviously I was under not as much pressure and things like that as I have been in my other games, because I was playing against a significantly weaker list, but I did a good job of having my models positioning correct, so that it would be much harder to sneak up on me and things like that. That's something I've really been trying to focus on. I was very aware that I needed to not overextend with my triads. That's also something I used to do more. So now I'm being a little more conservative with them. I don't want them to get left out in a place where my opponent doesn't have to put many orders to get to them and then start shooting them in his active turn, where obviously he's going to be advantaged. So all that worked out really well. Some mistakes I made, obviously, not putting the Rasail in just the right place. That's something I could have just checked with a laser sight or something like that, to make sure that I had line of fire to wherever those Ermendinos were going to come out from. I believe that they would be throwing the grenades on 13s against my suppressive fire, and I would have 4 shots on 12s. So it's actually really likely that I go ahead and at least land some hits on those Ermendinos, and maybe pick up 1 or both, which is a big deal because it's pretty much free models killed, and then it also removes some of the smoke options from the table. So that was a mistake, and then not taking the firefight on my turn 2 with the Gaurel, using the smoke grenades I had access to with the MSV2. That would have made things far safer, because obviously at that point I can focus on the tank hunter and then go after the boring shotgun, or vice versa. Put my full burst into them, and then if they decide to shoot me back, they're going to be at smoke penalty and cover penalty, so they're going to be on horrific rolls, and then that makes it much more likely that they're going to dodge, which I'm okay with, because even if the dodge succeeds, they're either going to get out of line of fire, which is what I wanted, or they are going to die. And even if the dodge succeeds, it's not like the Gaurel is going to take damage from that or anything like that, and because he was on his last wound, that is actually very important. So that's something I need to kind of work on, is not getting so caught up in other plans and kind of always keeping those smoke grenades in my mind, because that is the whole reason that model is in the list. He's a good model besides that, but the smoke grenades with my 2 MSV2 models are the big reason that I bring that guy. But overall, pretty happy with how I played the game. Less mistakes than I would say I make in a normal game. So that's always good. It's nice to see myself improving on some of the positional things and stuff like that Infinity uses. As far as this battle report goes and the ones in the future, I know I have a tendency to be a little long-winded when I talk about my battle reports. It's very hard for me to keep them to like half an hour or something, which a lot of other channels do. So I'm going to start including ways to jump around the battle report. You can bypass me talking about the introduction or the army lists or that kind of thing, and it'll obviously you'll know when the post game thoughts are starting. So if you don't care about that, you can just turn it off. So I'm trying to make it easier for people to watch the way that they want to. Also, if you like my content, I also do written battle reports, which I do every single game that I play, with very, very few exceptions, gets a written battle report. Usually like one a week is going to be getting a video. So if you want to see more stuff from me, you can check out my blog, which should be in the video details. It's also on the channel description, I think. So go ahead and give those a read if written content is your thing. If you have any suggestions or feedback or anything like that on ways I can improve this, I'm trying to step up the production a little bit, learning some tools and things like that as I go. But always definitely on the lookout for for feedback on what I can be doing better. So thanks a lot for watching, you guys. I'm going to try to update this more regularly. I know it's been a little stoppy-starty as I try to figure out some of the production stuff, like I said, but with a lot of that at least kind of smoothed over for the most part, now I can crank these out a little bit easier. So you should see another battle report from me pretty soon. All right, thank you very much, and thanks for watching.